Let me now just give you just two brief examples, again, on the economic and trade areas on how the ALBA has worked in practice. And the first one is on trade. And I have to say the intra-trade between the members has increased in even unexpected forms, and I'm going to take my country as an example. Bolivia actually complained repeatedly with this new government to the U.S. for interference with its internal affairs, especially when that country, its aid agencies or NGO, supported the opposition. Of course, this was during the past administration, and now we have a new agreement with the U.S., but it's just to illustrate my point. And as a result of that behavior, we were compelled to expel the U.S. ambassador from La Paz. As a retaliation, the U.S. not only did expel our ambassador from Washington, but it also suspended the trade preference under a scheme that he has for Andean countries regarding drug control. And they did say that we didn't fulfill the requirements for this particular trade preference. Although, of course, if you see the UN records, Bolivia has just increased that year 1% of growth of coca leaf, with other countries in the region increasing more than 20%. And, of course, Bolivia being only the third producer with a very minimal percentage of the world producer. So when you are faced with this kind of problems, what can you do? Of course, you can use ALBA and TCP. And we were lucky, in a sense, to have faced this problem because thanks to this episode, we have reduced our dependency to the developed countries market and increased our export, for instance, to Venezuela, but also to other countries of the region. And the total amount, actually, of exports, for instance, in textile, has increased. Will it be in the U.S., would it be in the ALBA countries, or in other regional groupings that we belong to in Latin America? The second example I want to bring you on how this integration is working is that from 2004 to 2009, ALBA countries' combined GDP has increased from 195,950 to 465,248 million. That is more or less 147%. That's quite surprising. And if you see the case of Bolivia from 2004 to 2009, you will have an increase of 88%, of almost doubling our GDP. Of course, we don't have rate of increase of our GDP as China, but for Bolivia, these are staggering numbers. It's the period where we have more incremental growth for decades. And even more, for the first time in a long period, Bolivia is reinvesting in its own people and permitting a reduction of extreme poverty and poverty of almost 10 percentage points since this new government has taken place. That is since 2006. That means more or less 2 percentage points of reduction of poverty per year. And you may ask yourself, how do we manage? And actually, it's this positive environment created by ALBA policies and measures that have helped us, as well as other regional initiatives. But above all is the idea that drives all the ALBA project, and that is that political independence is not enough without economic independence. One without the other undermines the general independence of an action of a country. In that regard, the new financial architecture, the monetary union, the new trade relation, and other economic measures such as the renegotiations or denunciation of unfair bilateral investment trade agreements that only benefited transnational, the nationalization of industry that deals with commodity that benefits now the owners of these resources, that is the inhabitants of our countries and not foreign business. And I could keep giving you examples such as the emphasis that we have put on food security and sovereignty, the energy supply at affordable prices, and so on. But is this truly enable environment that has allowed a country like Bolivia to increase substantially its GDP and redistribute it to its more vulnerable population? And why have I started with some economic project? It's not only because we are here in UNCTAD, where of course we talk about trade and economics, but also because too often we know ALBA portrayed in the media only as a political organization and not as an economic organization. But also because I wanted to compel to you the message that you need both independence, economic and political, to be able to put in places other measures that I will just briefly mention to you. So having the backbone of a regional project regarding economic, financial, and monetary integration, what we have been able to achieve is, for instance, a cooperation on health that is trinational. We use the capacities that the countries have. So, for instance, Cuba has very well qualified and trained doctors. Venezuela provides some financial resources to allow the transport and installation of the medical personnel. And in this case, Bolivia providing each community that received them with accommodation and some other elements that can be food, clothing, and so on. And I wanted to present you this example because it doesn't represent first an expensive project that we are used to hear about, but also because it illustrates the idea of complementarity that each country can provide according with its capacities. But also because it directly benefits the most vulnerable population that in some cases didn't have the capacity to go to a doctor in their very remote area. And just one data regarding this particular project, there are 3 interventions in patients with ophthalmic conditions, and it represented almost 2 million interventions in all Latin America. Why? Because all the countries that are neighbors of Bolivia, like Argentina, Peru, come to see these doctors. So it's not only benefiting Bolivia, but all the countries that are neighboring. The second case is regarding illiteracy, and it's a program called in Spanish Yo Si Puedo, developed by Cuba. It has been taken to Bolivia, to Nicaragua, and other countries, and basically what we've done is to train in Bolivia the people that can deliver this program. And thanks to this program, we have been declared, among others by UNESCO, because this is also supported by UNESCO, as the 3rd country free of illiteracy in Latin America. The same as you had with Nicaragua and Venezuela, and of course Cuba before us. So the last example is just that all the resources, economics, that we have been able to provide to our population through the economic policies that we've done before and I explained before, we have reinvested in our people. And we are creating small allowances that you give to every child that is finishing the 5 years school. So, for instance, every child will receive, it's not a lot, it's just around $25. But for Bolivia, it's the most that a family maybe will see together in quite some time. And of course, we have provided also some health providence to women. So just the message that I wanted to make you is that often in the North, they talk to us as poor. But for us, it's the contrary. We are rich. We are rich of solidarity, of culture, of complementarity, and we have resources, and we can use them. And actually, we are becoming more and more independent, economically and politically. And more important, we continue to dream to have our own bank, dream to have our own monetary union, dream to have our own trade practices. And because of these dreams, little by little, we are making them true. And we will keep on dreaming and constructing our own future. Thank you.